It was just past 8 a.m. The hospital's front glass doors glinted under the morning sun. Clean, cold, and uncaring. Outside, standing barefoot on the hot concrete, was a boy, Malik. Dust clung to his ankles. His shirt, loose and lopsided, slipped off one shoulder. The hem of his shorts was ripped. His ribs peeked through fabric that had once been new. Long ago, he hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. But right now, hunger was important. He had been waiting for 3 whole days. Not begging, not shouting, just watching. Something was wrong inside that building, and no one believed him. People pass. Doctors in white coats, families with tears, nurses in scrubs. But none of them saw him. He was invisible. Security had already shooed him away more than once. But he pretended not to understand English, just so he could stay close. And today, he couldn't wait any longer. Because today, someone important was arriving. From the back seat of a black luxury car stepped a man, tall, polished, powerful. A deep navy blue suit, shiny black shoes, a leather briefcase in one hand, and on his face, the look of a man who owned everything he walked past. Dalton Graves, billionaire investor, the man who built half the skyline of the city. A name flashed across news tickers and business journals alike. But today, he wasn't here for business. He was here to pick someone up. Malik's chest tightened the moment he saw him. This was the man they whispered about inside the hospital. The one whose signature could discharge a patient without question. The one who could unknowingly send someone home. 2D. Graves didn't see Malik at first. He walked up the steps calmly, nodding to a receptionist inside, unaware of the danger ahead. And then, Malik ran, bare feet, slapping against the floor. His voice tore through the quiet morning air like a siren. "Don't go in there," he shouted. "Please don't." Graves turned, startled. He blinked at the dirty boy rushing toward him. Then, he laughed. Not cruelly, just the kind of laugh wealthy men give children when they seem confused. "I've just come from inside," Graves said casually. "Everything's fine, young man." But Malik's voice cracked again, louder. "No, sir, it's not. They lied to you. She's not okay. Please, listen to me." Security moved. One guard grabbed Malik's arm. "That's enough, kid. Move along." But Malik twisted free, desperate. "I heard them. I was behind the supply room. I heard what they said. They stop her meds because they're expensive. They said, just give her fluids. He'll never notice." Graves' smile disappeared. The air grew heavy. His hand gripped the briefcase tighter. "Who are you?" he asked, softly, cautiously. Malik's voice dropped to a whisper. "My mom used to clean here. Until they fired her. She warned them. Like I'm warning you now." Graves stared at the boy. His eyes weren't wild. They were steady, terrified, but clear. And that's what shook him. Because fear can be fake. But truth? Truth always shows in the eyes. Inside that hospital was someone he cared about. Ms. Edith, his late wife's housekeeper. The woman who helped raise his daughter. The one he had just signed out, without even checking her room. His heart thudded in his chest. "What did you say they gave her?" he asked. "Nothing that helps," Malik said quietly. "She didn't eat. She's not waking up right." The billionaire didn't respond. He just turned and walked back through those glass doors. Fast, leaving his world. His meetings, his image. Behind, Malik stood there, shaking. He didn't know what would happen now. But he knew one thing for sure. He had done the right thing. Inside the hospital, everything looked perfect on the surface. Floors shined. Nurses moved swiftly. Charts were clipped in neat rows. But beneath the sterile calm, something was deeply wrong. Mr. Graves marched down the corridor. His shoes echoed loudly against the polished tiles. Doctors turned their heads. Some nodded. Others looked away. He didn't stop until he reached the 5th floor. Nurses at the desk froze when they saw him. Their smiles flickered with tension. A doctor approached, tall, nervous, adjusting his glasses. Mr. Graves, we were just... Take me to Edith. The doctor hesitated, then turned. This way, sir. Down the hall, left curtain 6. When they pulled aside, Graves stopped breathing for a moment. There she was, pale, sunken into the hospital bed. Her mouth was dry, her skin grayish, her breathing shallow. And above her, 4 bags, but not what he expected. One was clear, saline. Another, also fluids. No antibiotics. No nutrients. No heart monitor. Just enough to say she was alive. His voice turned cold. Who signed off on this? The doctor shifted. She met the minimum criteria for discharge. Discharge? She can't even sit up, Graves said. And you were going to send her home? Silence. He looked around. No epalidi. No gil. Just silence. He took out his phone. Shut it down, he said into the receiver. Everything. Then he pulled up a chair beside Edith. He took her hand. For the first time in months, he sat and stayed. Downstairs, Malik hadn't moved. Security had told him to leave twice. Still, he sat near the planter box outside the entrance, knees pulled to his chest. He didn't ask for anything. No food, no water, no attention. He just waited. The sun had shifted by the time the glass doors opened again. Malik looked up. Mr. Graves stepped out, no longer rushed, no longer polished. Something in him had changed. He walked to the boy. You were right, he said, his voice soft. Malik blinked, unsure. I should have listened sooner. Graves continued. I am sorry, not just for laughing, but for every time I walked past someone like you. A pause. Is she okay? Malik asked. Graves nodded slowly. She will be, thanks to you. A long silence. Then Graves asked gently, do you have anyone waiting for you? Malik looked away. No. My mom used to clean here. She passed last year. You live on the street? Not really, Malik said. Just not anywhere. Graves exhaled. He stared at the boy, barefoot, dusty, alone, and brave. You have no shoes, he said. Malik shrugged. I had some once. Graves took out his phone again. I'm not sending you away, he said. I'm calling someone who can help, but only if you're okay with it. If not, I'll stay right here with you until we figure something out. Malik looked up. You don't have to. I know, Graves said, but I want to. 30 minutes later, a silver car pulled up. A woman stepped out. Kind eyes, warm smile. Rhonda Alston, a social worker Graves had trusted for years. She knelt beside Malik. Would it be okay if I take you somewhere safe? She asked. Just for one night, until we talk more? Malik looked at Graves. I'll come check on you myself, Graves promised. That was enough. Malik nodded, and for the first time in days, smiled. The glass doors of the hospital creaked open. A swirl of cold air escaped as if the building itself sighed. Inside, nurses moved briskly, eyes fixed on charts. Machines beeped in rhythm. But no one looked up. No one noticed the barefoot boy, still sitting on the planter outside, waiting. Malik hadn't moved, not in hours. His feet were raw, his lips dry and cracked. Yet his eyes, they were alert, focused, because he knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Upstairs on the 5th floor, Dalton Graves stood frozen beside the bed of Edith, the woman who had helped raise his daughter. His hand trembled as he brushed her frail gray hair from her face. She didn't stir. Her breathing was shallow. Too shallow. Her skin, pale, not the kind of pale that comes from rest, but the kind that whispers of a body fading. The monitor beeped slowly. No cuatro nutrition. No antibiotics. Just fluids. The doctor shifted behind him. Cleared his throat. She met the minimum discharge criteria, he repeated. Graves turned slowly. Eyes sharp. Voice cold. She can't even sit up. No one answered. Because they couldn't. Because the truth hung heavier than the silence in the room. You cleared her. Because you needed the bed, didn't you? His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It sliced like ice. The doctor swallowed hard. Another nurse avoided eye contact. Graves pulled out his phone, dialed a number that only a few ever received calls from. He spoke only 2 words. Shut down. And hung up. Then he pulled a chair beside Edith's bed and sat. He didn't scroll his phone, didn't call a driver, didn't look at his watch. He just sat for the first time in months, his hand in hers, watching her chest rise, fall, hoping that this moment was not her last. Downstairs, Malik remained. Security had asked him to leave. Again, but he hadn't moved. He didn't flinch, didn't complain. He just waited. And finally, hours later, the glass doors opened. Mr. Graves stepped out. His posture, different now, no longer stiff with authority, but softened, like a man who had just walked through a fire and left his ego behind in the smoke. Malik jumped to his feet, eyes wide. Graves looked at him. Longer this time. Not through him, but at him. You were right, he said quietly. Malik blinked. Is she okay? She will be. Thanks to you. A long silence passed. Then Graves asked, Do you have someone waiting for you? Malik hesitated. No, sir. Where do you live? Nowhere. Just around. Graves nadie slowly. He didn't ask more. Didn't press. He just took out his phone again and said softly, I'm not sending you away. I'm calling someone I trust. She helps kids like you. Malik looked away. I don't want trouble. This isn't trouble, Graves said. It's care. Minutes later, a black SUV pulled up. From it stepped a woman with kind eyes and a notebook. Ms. Rhonda Alston, a licensed social worker, handpicked by Graves years ago for a different project, one that never mattered as much as this one now did. She knelt beside Malik. I'm just going to take you to a warm place for the night. Some food. And we'll talk, okay? Malik looked at Graves. Graves nadie. I'll come check on you myself. I promise. That was enough. Malik nodded slowly. And for the first time in a long time, he stood up without fear. He stepped into the SUV, not as a runaway, but as someone finally seen. And as the doors shut behind him, Graves watched it drive off into the distance. His world shaken, his heart changed, not by a scandal, not by a business deal, but by a barefoot boy who refused to stay silent. It had been 3 days since that morning. 3 days since Malik had shouted through the hospital doors. 3 days since Dalton Graves had walked back inside and refused to look away. Edith was now recovering in a private medical suite. Real doctors, real care, real dignity. Not because she was a VIP, but because someone had finally listened. And Malik? He didn't return to the street. Ms. Alston, the soft-spoken social worker, had found him a warm, quiet place to sleep that first night. And true to his word, Mr. Graves had shown up the next day, not in a suit, not in a rush. He brought food, he brought silence, he brought presence. And the next day, and the day after that, a bond was forming, slowly, but solidly. It wasn't pity. It wasn't charity. It was recognition. A man who had spent his life building empires had been reminded what truly matters by a boy who had nothing and still gave everything. Weeks passed. Malik started school. He had a counselor, new shoes, warm meals, still quiet, still watchful, but healing. And Graves? He didn't just visit. He came every morning. He sat through homework. He walked Malik to school. And when winter came early, he stood in line with him at the coat drive, just like any father would. Then one chilly Friday morning, they sat together at the kitchen table. Scrambled eggs, toast, warm milk. Malik, eyes on his plate, finally asked question, Why'd you come back that day? Graves paused, fork halfway to his mouth. He looked at Malik, not with surprise, but with something softer, something deeper. Because when you shouted, you didn't look scared, he said. You looked certain, like the truth was too big for you to hold alone. A long silence. Then quietly, and I've ignored the truth for far too long. Later that month, in a quiet family court, adoption papers were signed. Malik's name was still his, but now his home wasn't a sidewalk. It was a real house, with locks, with light, with someone who waited up when he was late. On the first morning in his new home, Malik came down the stairs to find a blue backpack by the door, his name stitched in gold. A note inside read, "You're not a shadow anymore. You're family." Months later, Graves stood on the steps of the newly renovated hospital ward. Reporters gathered. Cameras flashed. Behind him, a bronze plaque was unveiled. The Edith Ward, in honor of those we forgot. And beside him, Malik stood tall. Same sharp eyes. Same quiet strength. But now, hope lived behind them. When someone asked Graves what had changed, what made a businessman tear down his own system, he simply nodded toward the boy beside him and said, "Because sometimes the smallest voice is the one that tells the biggest truth." Movie camera, if this story moved you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Speech Balloon, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Bell and subscribe for more emotional, true style stories that stay with you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.